this relentless pursuit isn't elegance. It is anxiety, financial exhaustion, and a deep crisis of visual identity. While the West drowns in excess, Japanese masters of design and philosophy have guarded an ancient secret, a method that allows you to look deeply sophisticated, luxurious, and magnetic, without spending fortunes and without buying a single passing trend. Today, we are going to decode the 70-30 rule, an occult wisdom that bridges modern neuroscience and Eastern aesthetics to transform how the world perceives you. If you want to reclaim your financial dignity, your self-confidence, and build a presence that commands respect in any room, this video is your starting point. Welcome to our space of applied wisdom. To understand the Japanese remedy, we must first diagnose our own ailment. Why do we feel this compulsive need to constantly update our closets? Western psychology calls this hedonic adaptation. This is an ancient brain mechanism. When we buy a new piece of clothing, our brain receives an immediate hit of dopamine, the neurotransmitter of reward and anticipation. We feel powerful, renewed. However, the brain quickly adapts to that new stimulus. In less than 2 weeks, that clothing loses its shiny novelty factor, and your satisfaction level drops right back to baseline zero. You don't buy clothes because you need fabric to cover your body. You buy them in the hope of filling an identity. Void. Social media algorithms know this. They manipulate your vulnerability, triggering FOMO, the fear of missing out. You look at the seasonal trends, and subconsciously, your brain processes a cruel message. If I don't wear what everyone else is wearing, I will be invisible. I will be cast out of the tribe. The result? What psychologists call decision fatigue. Faced with a closet crammed full of disconnected pieces, seasonal prints, and cheap fabrics that degrade after the second wash, you waste precious mental energy every single morning. You dress for the judgment of others rather than the expression of your own true self. You spend money trying to buy other people's respect, but you end up only buying the next cycle of dissatisfaction. To break free from this cycle of anxiety, Japan offers us the first pillar of the 70-30 rule. It is encapsulated in the word shibui. Shibui is a Japanese aesthetic concept that refers to a beauty that doesn't need to beg for attention. It is the kind of elegance that reveals itself subtly through simplicity, clean geometry, and the intrinsic depth of the material. Something that is shibui is not boring. It is extraordinarily refined precisely because it refuses excess. It is the absolute opposite of exhibitionism. The practice of shibui in clothing. How do we apply this in a practical way? By understanding that the first 70% of your wardrobe must be strictly composed of shibui. Foundations. We are talking about timeless pieces with impeccable tailoring and solid neutral colors. Think well-fitted tailoring, Egyptian cotton shirts, and structured wool coats. These pieces have no visible logos, no loud patterns, and do not reveal the year they were bought. They function like the structure of a Japanese temple, solid, silent, and eternal. When you wear a shibui base, the visual focus shifts away from the clothing brand and lands squarely on the dignity of your posture and the clarity of your presence. The scientific validation. Modern neuroscience validates the power of shibui through the concept of visual cognitive load. When the human brain looks at someone dressed in clothes full of giant logos, fluorescent colors, and excessive information, the visual cortex has to work overtime to process that stimulus. Subconsciously, the brain categorizes that image as noise or a desperate cry for validation. On the other hand, when you adopt the shibui aesthetic, the observer's brain processes your image with very low cognitive effort. In cognitive psychology, this triggers the effect of processing fluency. The brain associates the ease of looking at you with feelings of sophistication, security, reliability, and high status. True luxury doesn't scream. It calms the eyes of those who look at it. If 70% of the method consists of the imperceptible calm of Shibui, where does your personality come in? Where is your unique signature in the world? The answer lies in the second ancient concept, Wabi-Sabi. Wabi-Sabi is the Japanese philosophy that finds beauty in imperfection, asymmetry, and the passage of time. It is the appreciation of that which is authentic, organic, and carries a history. In the Western fashion world, people chase an artificial, plastic, and standardized perfection. Wabi-Sabi teaches us the exact opposite. True elegance resides in deliberate, controlled imperfection. The practice of Wabi-Sabi in clothing. Here lies the secret of the remaining 30% of the rule. The 70% is your neutral and classic foundation. The 30% is where you introduce your Wabi-Sabi points of contrast. This is where you insert elements that express your individuality without breaking the harmony of the whole. It could be a watch inherited from your family that carries the marks of time, a handmade leather shoe whose natural wear reveals its quality, or a single piece with a bold cut or deep color that contrasts with the neutral base. It is the subtle cuff of a sleeve, the slightly unstructured drape of a linen blazer that wrinkles as your body moves. These 30% keep you from looking like a soulless store mannequin. They prove that you are a human being with a history, refined, taste, and an intellect of your own. The third and final pillar that binds the 70-30 rule together is perhaps the most abstract and powerful in Japanese culture. The word is ma. Translated simply, ma means the empty space, the sacred interval between things. In Japanese music, the silence between the notes is just as important as the notes themselves. In architecture, the negative space defines the utility of the room. In dress, ma represents the correct distance between the fabric and your skin. It is the absolute refusal of tightness, vulgar ostentation, and visual haste. The practice of ma in clothing. The practical application of ma within the 70-30 rule dictates fit and proportion. The crucial mistake of the modern Western wardrobe is the lack of space. Clothes tightly clung to the body to project an obvious sensuality, or an exaggeration of unnecessary layers that suffocate the silhouette. Ma demands that you respect the natural structure of your body. The foundations, the 70%, should float over the body, allowing for movement, breathability, and comfort. There is a geometric dignity when a coat frames your shoulders without pinning them down, or when trousers fall in a straight line without breaking the visual flow. The negative space in clothing creates an aura of mystery and authority. Anyone who utilizes the concept of ma transmits the implicit message that they do not need to expose everything to be noticed. The Japanese 70-30 rule for clothing is not about fashion. It is about saving mental energy, gaining financial sovereignty, and building spiritual depth. When you decide that 70% of your image will be anchored in the timeless serenity of Shibui and ma, and only 30% will be dedicated to the artistic expression of yourself through Wabi-Sabi, you break the chains of unbridled consumerism. You stop being a pawn on the chessboard of corporate fast fashion and become the architect of your own presence. You will discover that spending less, but spending with intention and quality, buys what no trend could ever deliver: lasting respect, unshakable elegance, and peace of mind. Starting tomorrow, when you get dressed, ask yourself, where is my solid foundation? And where is my touch of truth? Simplify your closet to amplify your soul. If this teaching resonated with your journey and echoed your search for a more conscious and sophisticated life, subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment below sharing which of these concepts, Shibui, Wabi-Sabi, or ma, you need to apply most in your life today.